Hey guys, Chad here from Take It or Leave It, here to talk to you today about my top 10 favorite pleasant surprises of 2022. But before we dive into this list, I want to let you know how I created it in the first place. Basically, there are two different kinds of pleasant surprises on this list. The first category are films that I was utterly unaware of. They weren't on my radar whatsoever. I might not even seen a trailer for them, and I might not have known of their existence, up until a week or 3 weeks before the film came out. And the second category are films that are essentially the equal and opposite of major disappointments. They're major pleasant surprises in the sense that I had such low expectations for them, and then they ended up being really good, or at least I liked them a lot. And the latter category actually pertains to the number 10 movie on this list, so let's get right on into it. At number 10, we have The Cursed. Like many films on this list, this movie had a trailer that, on the one hand, had things that gave me hope, and on the other hand, things that gave me doubt. And I think the things that gave me caution outweighed the things that gave me hope. Considering that this film seemed like it could potentially go down the route of this year's vampire movie, The Invitation, it was a real pleasant surprise that this ended up going much more down the road of, say, Bram Stoker's Dracula with Gary Oldman or The Brotherhood of the Wolf. And if that sounds good, I definitely recommend you check this one out if you missed it. At number 9, we have Smile. Not dissimilar from the last movie we just talked about, I had really mixed feelings about this film going into it. Because on the one hand, this was a studio film. It looked like it was taking a lot from other films that we had seen before, including The Ring, It Follows, and I just didn't know if this was going to really end up being something special or if it was just going to be standard issue studio horror. But on the other hand, this trailer is probably the scariest damn trailer I've seen in a long time. At least that last 15 seconds of that trailer, you know what part I'm talking about, when the woman is walking to the car and holy shit. I mean, look, nobody saw this trailer and didn't have a mini heart attack because that was so goddamn scary. So that in and of itself gave me hope for this film. And this being a studio movie that's not based on any pre-existing property, I thought, it's already a risk in and of itself. Maybe it's just gonna stay in the pocket, but it really ended up going for it. Not unlike the movie The Empty Man. Not to say that Smile does that quite the same, but it still really swung for the fences, I thought. And I hope that the inevitable sequels that come out from this end up keeping what made this film special rather than just being, mass-produced studio horror fare that we've seen in the past. Number 8 on this list is Pearl. Obviously, this is one of those completely out of nowhere films, considering that we knew nothing about this until we saw the post-credit scene of X. And while I did enjoy X, and frankly, I just love Ty West, I think that anything he makes, I'm gonna go see. I didn't love X. I liked it though. I've seen it twice. I enjoyed it. But Pearl, I liked a lot more, and I really thought that Ty West was completely unhinged just going for it with Pearl, and I'm really excited to see what he does with Maxine. I can't believe that he's making a third movie. He took one movie, X, and then made it into the trilogy. God love A24 for throwing up the effed flag and just saying, yeah, what, you got 2 more movies in you? Go for it, we'll do it. But I really enjoyed Pearl, and it was cool to see the background of the character that we saw in X and get a better idea of what made her the way she was. And I'm really curious to see what they're going to do with Maxine. And X I thought was really good. I thought that Pearl was even better. I hope Maxine is even better than those two. That'd be a hell of a little horror trilogy that we got on our hands. That ended up coming out of nowhere. Number 7 on this list is The Menu. This is one of those films that I saw the trailer, I saw the cast, I saw the cinematography, the writing seemed solid. Everything seemed a little too good to be true with this movie, especially because I believe it was a studio horror film. And my biggest concern about this was, is this film gonna play it safe? Does the studio really roll the dice and get totally weird with this kind of a cast, with this kind of a budget? I just didn't think it was going to. And to my surprise, it actually did push the envelope a fairly good amount, not as much as I would have liked, but you know what? The film was so good in the other elements of filmmaking, the acting, the cinematography, all that stuff, that it still got weird enough that I think that the other elements kind of picked up the slack, and I thought delivered a very good film. 2/3 of it I loved. The last act kind of fell off a little bit for me, but I still think the film as a whole was really, really solid. Number 6 on this list is Yule Log. Alright, so with this movie, I'm gonna try not to say shit, because this came out of absolute nowhere. I knew nothing about it, and the trailer and the poster, I mean, it gives you nothing. Even the IMDb synopsis tells you absolutely nothing about this film. I just saw the trailer for this, and I just saw the top comment, and the top comment just said, within the first 10 minutes, this movie goes in such a bizarre direction, and I was like, done, I'm done. Let's see this thing ASAP. And man, this film gets so bizarre, and I love this movie. I mean, it's not the best movie on this list. It's not the best movie I've ever seen, but I actually think that there's a little bit more to this movie. This film feels very David Lynchian in a lot of ways. There's actually more to this movie. I think that there's some amateurish elements, but it kind of was part of the character of this film at the end of the day. And this was a pleasant surprise. That's what this list is for movies like Yule Log. Definitely check it out if you get a chance, and don't look at anything about what this movie's about. I think you'll end up enjoying it. At number 5, we have Deadstream. I actually started watching this again the other day, and I really enjoyed this flick. I knew nothing about it. I kind of just assumed it was just another run-in-the-mill found footage film, and look, I know a lot of people don't like found footage, but like for me, I am a sucker for found footage. Doesn't mean I like all found footage, but when it's good, I freaking love it, and Deadstream is excellent, especially for found footage. I don't want to say it pushes the envelope, but it definitely tries to do some new stuff with technology nowadays and incorporating that in really interesting and unique ways to make this a very, very effective and fun horror film. Especially the lead actor, who's also the co-director of the film, does an excellent job. He, I think, is really the glue that keeps this whole movie together. If you just want to see a fun but actually genuinely creepy at times horror film that's a found footage film, I actually think you'll find some success with this one. At number 4, we have Black Box. This film is about a young and talented black box analyst who is on a mission to solve the reason behind the deadly crash of a brand new aircraft. If you've never heard of this film, no worries, no judgment. This is a judgment-free zone. I actually don't blame you. I hadn't either. I was just kind of looking for films coming out, and I stumbled on this one, and it actually seemed kind of interesting. This is definitely more so a mystery, suspense, thriller that goes heavily into the kind of conspiracy side of things. And in a world of insane, asinine, ludicrous conspiracies that come out on a daily basis, this actually seems like a legitimate whistleblower conspiracy that would actually take place, that probably has taken place in some way, shape, or form in the past. And man, I was just glued to the screen. I was just so into this film. It's a French/Belgian film, so there are subtitles, just FYI. As it slowly starts to unravel, it really gets interesting and more interesting, and you really get to see this guy's investigation, and it starts going down the rabbit's hole. I was fairly captivated with this film, and I was very, very interested to see where it was going to go and what was going to happen with our main character. It definitely had that feel of Roman Polanski's The Ghost Rider with Ewan McGregor. If you like that movie, and if you like movies like that, I definitely recommend you check this movie out. At number 3, we have We're All Going to the World's Fair. This was another film that I just kind of stumbled on, and man, this poster was eye-catching, and I was like, I gotta check this thing out. It's either going to be absolute dog shit, or it's going to be something really cool, actually, and luckily, it's the latter. Alone in her attic bedroom, teenager Casey becomes immersed in an online role-playing horror game, wherein she begins to document the changes that may or may not be happening to her. So this is a found footage film, or, you know, it's more so like that movie Host that came out a couple years ago, where it's all filmed on like a webcam. I don't know if they have a genre for that yet. If they do, let me know down in the comments section, because I'm sure there is by now. There's a little bit of a difference between found footage and this. But at any rate, it's one of those films, and I gotta say, this thing was very unsettling and very, very creepy. There's one scene in particular, holy shit, where you're watching her sleep, and there's several minutes like kind of going by, and I've really found myself getting like hypnotized by this film, and little did I know that something was changing on screen very, very slowly. And when it finally hit me, it scared the ever-loving shit out of me. Even though what I was looking at wasn't all that terrifying, I was like paralyzed in fear. There are a number of scenes that really take their time. It is very much a hypnotizing kind of film that slowly works its way under your skin, and I definitely recommend that you check this out. Don't get bored of it. Don't quit on it early, damn it. All right? You know, stay with it, because it's a part of the experience, and it's a very interesting, unique one, and I definitely recommend recommend you check it out if it sounds interesting to you. At number 2, we have Speak No Evil. This is a movie that I talked about a lot already in my review for it, but I didn't know if it was going to stick with me or not, and it did. It's still with me, and it's a really great film in my opinion that I think has some very interesting things to say about compliance and social awkwardness, and how that's kind of almost part of our human condition and where things can go if those things are left unchecked and unchallenged. But man, this movie felt like a freaking nightmare that just wouldn't end, and I think you'll learn this more and more as you see me do my lists here. I am a fiend for nightmare films, for just nightmare fuel. Like David Lynch is one of my favorite directors of all time, purely just because he is such a craftsman of the feeling of a nightmare, and this film felt like a nightmare. I definitely recommend you check it out if you haven't seen it already. It's on Shudder. It's definitely worth a watch. And my number 1 pleasant surprise of 2022 is Barbarian. This movie freaking rocked, and most importantly, the trailer didn't show you jack shit. I had a little bit of an idea of what this film was about, just with a girl going to Airbnb and someone's already there, and the basement seems a little creepy. That's it. That's all we know from the trailers, and damn, this movie just goes for it. It goes for it, and it just goes into a totally different direction than I ever would have imagined. This is the kind of movie that I talk about when I say I want it to get weird. This film gets freaking weird, and I love it. It just swings for the fences, swings for the weird, and knocks it out of the goddamn park, and I love this movie so much. It may show up on another list of mine, we'll see, but I loved how the film ended up switching the narrative and going from one character to another. It was kind of like a nice reset and kind of fresh way of introducing some new characters and giving us a little bit of background on them. I don't want to say too much about this movie because if you haven't seen it, so much of this film's enjoyment, at least the first time, is just the crazy direction it goes. I've seen the movie twice and I enjoyed it thoroughly both times. Even though I knew kind of where it goes and what it's all about, I still enjoyed the hell out of this movie. I definitely recommend you check this thing out if you haven't already. And guys, that wraps up my 10 biggest pleasant surprises of 2022. Man, this was a fun list to put together. I would recommend any movie on this list. If it sounds interesting, don't think, just go check it out. I am highly confident that you'll end up at least finding any of these films being worthwhile to see, and I think that you'll end up finding some really great hidden gems on this list if you haven't seen them. But hey, these are just my thoughts. Take it or leave it. What do you guys think? Have you seen all these movies? Have you heard of all these movies? Or are there some on here that you haven't even heard of that you're now interested in? Let me know down in the comments section. Let's talk about it. And guys, as usual, thank you so much for stopping by and watching this video. I really appreciate it. Don't be afraid to hit that like and subscribe button, and keep an eye out for my next list video, which is going to be my biggest disappointments of 2022. That'll be out fairly soon. Keep an eye out for it. And in the meantime, guys, I'm Chad from Take It or Leave It, and I'll check you later.
Check you later. Check you later.
Hey man, get off my case.
Oh man. Chicks don't want to hear that shit.